Hi there, it's Professor Jim Caffey, and today we're going to do Chapter 11 on the giant planets. So Chapter 11 begins with our four gas giants, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Jupiter is the big one. On its way to Saturn, the Cassini spacecraft saw Jupiter in 2012. And here we see one of its moons casting a shadow by the Great Red Spot. The Galileo spacecraft went to Jupiter in the 90s and had a probe that went down into Jupiter's atmosphere. Lasted about 65 minutes and went in a very dry pocket of atmosphere. Very unusual. We can see Earth from Saturn from the Cassini spacecraft. And this is an image of Earth right here. Tiny dot with the arrow, taken in July 2013. This is a distance of 1.4 billion kilometers, about a billion miles. We have seen Uranus in the infrared. Uranus is tipped over 97 degrees on its side. It has some thin rings, but really a very bland atmosphere. Not much going on in the atmosphere there, in the visible. Because of the tilt of Uranus, the seasons are very different than on Earth. We can look at the internal structures of the Jovian planets, and we find that Jupiter and Saturn have lots of metallic hydrogen, whereas Uranus and Neptune have a lot of water ice, believe it or not, and some rock. We can see Jupiter in radio waves. This is from an array in New Mexico. James Van Allen was a pioneer in space science in this 1950s photograph. He holds a rocket, and he investigated the magnetic influence around Earth. Jupiter's colorful clouds around the Great Red Spot. That storm is a low pressure area about 2 or 3 times the size of the entire Earth. Saturn, over the course of 5 years, will tilt its rings towards us. Very neat. In the atmosphere of these Jovian planets, like we said, we see a lot of hydrogen in Jupiter and Saturn, ices in Uranus and Neptune. They are pretty cold. Here is some cloud structure on Saturn in this Cassini image. One of the really neat things about Saturn that we have found is a hexagon pattern in its north pole. You can see a 6-sided hexagon here. Very unusual, and we have seen this now in Jupiter's atmosphere as well. Neptune is great, big, and blue. Has some thin, icy clouds here, traveling at over the speed of sound, 700 miles an hour. Neptune has the fastest winds in the solar system. Very unusual. These are high clouds in the atmosphere of Neptune. Very thin cirrus clouds made of ice. We see these on Earth as well. The winds on these gas giants are very interesting. The storms on Jupiter, we've seen the Great Red Spot. There are also these white ovals that appear in the swirling atmosphere. Jupiter's Great Red Spot again, very stormy, about 3 times the size of the Earth. And finally, that's it. Thank you for joining me for Chapter 11 on the gas giants.